Hello, welcome or welcome back to the YarnNYarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is just a really quick video announcing a new make-along that I thought I would host for the rest of the year. I have recently posted over on my Patreon about some things that we have going on at home in our family life, which mean that for the foreseeable future I shall be doing a lot more travelling around to visit family and stay with family and give support while it's needed. This means that I'm going to want, probably over the next few months, quite a few portable projects, things that I can take backwards and forwards with me. The stuff that's going on is sometimes quite emotionally hard as well, so I had the thought in my head that I don't always want to knit those feelings into some of my current projects that I know will stay with me for a long time. So I figured I needed something different, something new to see me through these times. It started a couple of months ago where I needed a project for one of the first trips that I took to stay with and support family, and I had a rummage through my yarn baskets, my leftover in particular, and I've got a lot of leftovers. I'm looking past the camera slightly because I've got two baskets of leftovers hidden away in my little cupboard across the other side of the room. So I started having a rummage through the leftovers, and of course, as happens, one thing leads to another, and I ended up tidying those baskets somewhat and having a little bit of a sort out of said leftovers. And I came up with the thought of trying to work through a bunch of these leftovers over the coming months. As I first started this, I was weighing out my leftovers, trying to organise them a little bit more, and I thought, oh, I'll use anything that's sort of less than 40 grams, but it turned out I had a whole huge amount of yarn of leftovers that were 40 grams or less, so I decided to narrow my search down a little bit. And so I have a bag of yarn down here beside me, which contains all of my bits and pieces, leftovers that weigh 20 grams or less. And as you know, I'm a pretty avid sock knitter. Most of these are sock yarns, so my first thought was to make some pairs of socks. And I started with a scrappy pair of socks, completely scrappy. I picked out some pink yarns, and these are the socks that I knit, and I figured I would put these in my pile of things to donate at the end of the year. I posted about this on my Patreon, but as well as those scraps, I'd also put aside another bag of yarns where these ones are mostly kind of solid colours or semi-solid that might make good contrast for like heels, toes and cuffs if I'm going to go down the sock route. I wasn't quite as picky about how much those leftovers or those yarns weighed, and between the two bags of yarn I've ended up with just over 700 grams worth of yarn. So I thought I'd set myself a goal to try and work through as much of those two bags of yarn as I can before the end of the year. I'm setting myself a nice long goal for this, she says, but we're already 5 months into the year. I'm not quite sure how that's happened. But for my kind of standard pair of socks, I tend to use between 70 and 80 grams of yarn. So that's, if I stick to the sock theme, that's about 10 pairs of socks, which, you know, a couple a month. I think that's fairly doable, particularly given the amount of toing and froing that I'm doing at the moment. And when I posted about this on my Patreon, a few people asked if I would consider hosting a Scrappy make-along. So this video is to announce the new YarnNYarns Scrappy make-along. You can join in any way that you wish. I'm going to probably be mostly knitting socks, although I do have a idea in my head that I might make another scra bucket, which is a knitted project bag. Pattern is by Tracy of The Passionate Spinner. This bag is currently empty, but I've literally just emptied it. I've finished using it for one of my recent projects, and I love using this bag so much, and I thought it might be a good way to group together another sort of set of scraps leftovers in a particular colour to make another one of these. So one of these might also be in my future. So yes, between now and the end of the year, let's make some leftover or scrap projects together. Works in progress are completely welcome. I know lots of people use their scraps and leftovers to knit or crochet into blankets, but literally any kind of project counts. If you're using yarns that are left over from a different project, you can totally include them in this make along. And works in progress are also welcome, so you don't have to have started your project new from this point in time. Anything that you've had on your needles, hooks, looms, and whatever craft you like to use your leftovers in, completely welcome to join in this make along. So I'm going to have a hashtag over on Instagram, which is YarnNYScrapMal, and I'll put that up on the screen. I'll pop some threads in our Ravelry group, which I will link the Ravelry group below. You're most welcome to post about your projects, and I'll have a finished objects thread going over there as well. And yeah, let's just use up some of our yarns that have been left over from previous projects. Now, I thought I would share a couple of other projects that I have been working on since I decided to do this, because I've been doing this for probably 6-7 weeks now, maybe slightly more. So I've got my first pair of socks, which were the pink Scrappy socks. I also decided to have a look at my Ravelry library, and I picked out a pattern that I've had in my library for ages that I've always fancied making but never quite got round to, and it's the 2-colour sock pattern, which is a pattern by Joji Locatelli. And so I have also finished a pair of 2-colour socks. I love how these turned out. This green is West Yorkshire Spinners, and this was left over from the Stephen West Mystery sock knit along that I took part in last year. And the variegated green is a little bit of scrappy yarn. I don't know what it is. I think I might have got it when I purchased a box of mystery sort of leftovers and minis from a friend of mine when I was making my mitered square blanket quite some time ago. I think the green might have come from that sort of box of someone else's leftovers. Sadly, I didn't quite knit these long enough for me to keep. Otherwise I probably would keep these, but they're probably an inch or two shorter than I would need for me. And technically I could go back and rip out the toe and knit these a little bit longer, but the idea, as I say, behind a lot of these projects will be to give them away, to let them out into the world. So yeah, 2-colour socks were also finished, and I have moved on to a third pair of socks. I'm moving around and looking around because I need to find my project bag, because these are currently a work in progress still. Keeping these in a lovely bag by Emma of Eldon Woodcraft. And when I posted about my goal of using up some of these yarns, I asked on my Patreon post if anyone had any recommendations for sock patterns or any kind of patterns that might use up leftovers. And my lovely friend Angie recommended the Candyman socks by Lisa K. Ross. And I looked up the pattern and I decided there and then it was perfect. And Angie very kindly gifted me the pattern. So I have been working on a pair of Candyman socks. So as you can see, I've got one sock finished, and I'm using up some opal here, which was left over from a pair of socks that I finished recently for a work colleague of mine, and I had about 30, maybe 25 grams or so of yarn left over from the pair of socks that I knit for my work colleague. So I decided to use up the leftovers straight away. So yeah, I've got one sock knit, and the second is well on the way. So I have, these are toe up socks, so I've finished the foot, I've put in the heel, I'm just working on the leg now. So I'm at the point on this second sock where I get to do the fun stuff, where I bring in my colour again. And this has just been a really fun pattern. You get to do a little bit of textured knitting and a lot of just a plain round and round stocking stitch as well. The black yarn is also just an opal uni colour. And so yeah, my third pair of socks is well on the way to being finished. These should be done within the next week or so, I think. Yeah, I think that's probably all I need to say for this video. I got to share with you a couple of my recent finished objects. I haven't done a wrap-up video for a little while. Hopefully that will be coming soon on the channel. Just needed to find some time where I'm at home to sit down and record and gather all the projects. You've got a little peek at a couple of pairs of socks that I finished recently, one of my recent works in progress, and I would love for you to join in with our make along if you have leftover yarns that you want to use up. You don't have to knit socks, as I said, you can use any weights of yarn. I'm sticking to my 4-ply yarn because that's what I use most often in my knitting, but you can use any kind of leftovers that you have. I would love for you to let me know your pattern recommendations in the comments below if you have favourite patterns that you like to use when you're trying to use up your leftovers. So yeah, I'd love for you to share those if you would like to do so. On the theme of socks, one of my most recently finished pair of socks, the pressed flowers, which you might have seen the making vlog for recently, would be a great sock project for using up leftovers, because I think I only used about 25-30 grams of the contrast colour to make that flowers pattern if you watch that video. I am looking forward to trying to work through as many of these yarns as I possibly can in the coming months. I don't know how well I will do. I think if I can make another scrap bucket, that will definitely help me work my way through these yarns. So I might have to have a little look through and see what colours. I've got quite a lot of blue and green, so maybe I'll do a sort of blue greeny scrap bucket, and that would be a project that I would keep myself. But yeah, I'm just waffling now. Let me know whether you'll be joining in, what patterns you might choose, and even if you're not joining in, if you do have pattern recommendations for me or for anyone else out there who might like to join in, then I'd love for you to leave those in the comments below. By the time this video goes up, the threads should be up in the Ravelry group, and as I say, if you're joining in on Instagram, please use the hashtag YarnNYScrapMail. That is everything for this little video, so thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me today. I will be back here again on the channel soon with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. But until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.